Hello everyone, welcome to week 6. Here is your quick overview of what to expect and the resources to go with it. So if you go into week 6 overview and resources, which you are already in because you're watching this video, this week we're looking at, again, quantitative data analysis, the analysis of variance, also known as an ANOVA, a chi-square test, and an introduction to regression. So reading our business statistics books, chapter 11 and 12, that's the Donley text. Chapter 11 is the one that's going to deal with the ANOVA tests and look at one-way ANOVAs and two-way ANOVAs. This is what you're going to need for your case studies. Chapter 12 deals a little bit more with that chi-squared test and what a chi-squared statistic is. For those of you that got the other book, the research book, we're going to look at chapter 11 this week. And that's going to start you down the path of that multiple regression and linear regression, which you can see below. Linear regression and multiple regression is also what's going to come next week in week 7. But the reason we're giving you a little sneak peek into it this week is simply because you might need it for your discussion for your hypothesis statements. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But to know a little bit more about the chi-squared test, we've got this lovely Investopedia site. Just kind of tells you what it is, gives you some key takeaways. Again, I don't want you to concentrate so much on the formulas. Know what parts go into it, but if you don't quite understand the math for it, that's okay. Excel will do that math for you. Just know what a chi-squared statistic is and what it tells you. So here's where I really want you to pay attention. And then the independence, goodness of fit. So that's the first chi-squared. The second one, again, just kind of looks at how to calculate it, what it is. It's just another resource for you if the book is not quite making sense. So just use those as more resources. For those of you that don't have the research book, these next ones are some good ones. If you look at page 642 in your book, that's going to help you understand what a linear regression does. Talks about the differences between an independent variable and a dependent variable and what regression kind of helps you look at. This Lumen Learning site, again, just kind of gives you a general feel for what linear regression is. And then looking at page 701 in the Donley text gives you a little bit more in the fact that we're looking at dependent and independent variables. So how's it different? And again, here's one that kind of looks at the basics behind it. So looking at linear and then what's the general form. Again, you don't need to know these mathematical formulas, but understanding more about how we're looking at multiple variables here and how it kind of changes from linear regression, single linear regression. Here's another one, just again, another resource to give you a little bit more information. Remember, next week is dealing more with how to actually run multiple regressions and linear regressions. These are just like, what are you actually assuming? That's what I want you to know. The last one, this one's probably, again, the best one, this Investopedia, telling you what a linear multiple regression is, what are the aspects of it. You don't need to know the math part of it, your main takeaways, and what it can tell you. So those are pretty much the basics of a linear regression or a regression. Watch the Excel videos that I will post very soon. Complete your discussion and submit your case study. So looking at the next part, so here's your videos for this week. You'll have a one-way ANOVA example, you'll have a two-way ANOVA example, and then I'll give you some chi-squared statistics as well. But the ones you need to complete your case study this week will be the one-way and two-way ANOVA tests. So those videos will be coming. I'll record them later. For your discussion this week, I want you to tell me first of all, what is a hypothesis? And then give me some hypothesis statements that you might use in your research project and why you would use them. So next week, you're actually going to be using these statements. So hopefully your classmates can help you come up with, maybe you should reword this or something like that. And then your hypothesis statements can be related or should be related to either your ANOVA or your regression. So if you watched the videos I did last week with the hypothesis tests, and what I'll be doing this week with the ANOVA test is looking at what type of hypotheses can an ANOVA help us with. So if you run an ANOVA test on your data, so mine was that corn, soybeans, and rental price in North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota, and Nebraska. So an ANOVA test, which you'll find through the lesson this week and through the book and what I post in those videos, is basically going to tell you, is your average of these three the same or are they different? So my hypothesis for an ANOVA could be the average corn yield in Nebraska, North Dakota, and South Dakota is equal. That would be my null hypothesis. So then my alternative hypothesis would be the average corn yield in Nebraska, South Dakota, and North Dakota are not all equal. So that's how you would write a hypothesis statement for ANOVA. When we're looking at regression, we're looking at a relationship between variables, either between two variables or between three variables, like one dependent and one independent, or one dependent and multiple independents. So going back to that, my cropland example, I could say that my null hypothesis is no relationship exists between rental cropland price and corn yield. That would be my null hypothesis. My alternative hypothesis would be a relationship exists between rental cropland and cropland price and corn yield. And then I would use a regression model to explain that and to show, yes, I accept or no, I reject my null hypothesis. So those are kind of what you're thinking. So go back to last week's hypothesis, writing those hypotheses statements. Some of the extra resources I gave you last week will help with this as well. And again, if you ever have any questions on yours, please feel free to contact me. So then for your applied assignment this week, this is your case study submission. You know, you've been working on this case study since week 2. So since you've been working on them, now's the time to bring it all together. You do need to conduct an ANOVA test. You need to decide, is that going to be a one-way ANOVA or a two-way ANOVA after you watch the videos? Does this change anything that you've previously thought? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. And then you're going to record a group presentation of it, 10-minute maximum. So again, this is a video presentation, so I want to be able to see you all. I want to see your presentations. If you want to use slides, I'm looking for what's the problem, your analysis and interpretation. So give me your descriptive statistics. Give me your ANOVA. Is there any other type of analysis you guys did as a group? Those are the two that I'm looking for specifically, but did you run any other sort of tests that we've learned throughout this class to come to your conclusion? Give me those, and what did you learn from that? What is the interpretation of those tests and those descriptive statistics? What are the alternatives that you could have come up with or that you could conclude? And then what is your final recommendation for your case study? Here's the rubric for it. Again, defining the problem, looking at the data and analyzing it and interpreting the results is worth 20. Stating the alternatives and your recommended course of action is worth 15. And then just the quality and effectiveness of, that's not your paper, it's the quality and effectiveness of your presentation. I will get that fixed. Graded on the organization and coherence, your professional tone of voice, your word choice, sentence structure, how you talk, making sure your grammar and spelling on your slides is correct, and that it was within the time frame and all of that. So if you again have questions, please refer to the rubric. If you still have more questions, please let me know. And I look forward to seeing your case study presentations at the end of the week.